if people tell you their babies are sleeping through the night, just take that with a grain of salt.
What does through the night mean?
And through the night, what does through the night mean? From a textbook point of view, through the night means from 12 midnight to 5 in the morning, which really doesn't cut it with most of us. Go to bed early.
Yeah.
It can be so tempting though.
Yeah, I know.
Sabotage yourself because it's the only time you get.
Yeah, and you think, I just want a little bit of me time. But don't turn on Netflix.
Ngala acknowledges Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people as the traditional custodians of Australia and recognises their continuing connection to land, waters and community.
Hi Jen. Hi Angela.
Hi.
Hello.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Welcome to episode 5, which is on crying, what to expect and how to handle it. We've got Angela here today to discuss this topic. And Angela, why don't you introduce yourself? Tell us a little bit about who you are and what programs you're involved in at Ngala.
Thanks, Hannah. I'm Angela. I am a nurse, a midwife, a child health nurse, and I have been at Ngala for about 26 years on and off. I've stepped away a little bit at times to do other things. I am a mother of 3 and a grandmother of 4. Which has been lovely to be able to sort of have a little refresher of the actual nitty-gritty of parenting, especially when it comes to crying babies. It's been enlightening. Over the years at Ngala, I've worked in many different areas. It's taken me 25 years to get into the door of the parenting line, which has been fantastic because you never know what you're going to get when you ring somebody. So having had many years of experience, there's not much that frightens me these days.
You've heard it all before.
Yeah. Well, yes. Well, most of it. Occasionally I'm stumped.
Every day it will surprise you. Yeah.
But we have a great team. So if I'm stumped, I just quite happy to acknowledge that I don't have all the answers and I refer to my learned friends. So babies do cry. That if you think about crying as a way of communication, babies have other ways of communicating, but the most vocal one is crying. So most newborn babies are reasonably quiet for a couple of weeks, and then they get their voice when they've adapted to the world, and they start to tell us how they feel, whether they're hungry or tired or just want to cuddle. And that crying often peaks at around about 6 weeks. So we do get a lot of calls around that time. And it can feel like your baby spends all day crying, but probably it can be up to about 3 hours a day. And hopefully by that stage, you have worked out how to settle your baby. And we'll get back to that in a minute. And generally speaking, crying has settled by the time the babies are about 12 weeks of age or 3 months. And whether that is the fact that everybody's just used to one another, we've got the feeding sorted, we're talking each other's language, but generally speaking, 12 weeks is a seriously good turning point, and you probably think to yourself, you know what, I reckon I can do this. Parenting is a really tough gig, and I think we're not really very honest about how difficult it is. The media, magazines, and often other mothers, it's all great, baby sleeps through the night. Well, judging by the number of calls we had on Monday, they're not. We had 51 calls. So if people tell you their babies are sleeping through the night, just take that with a grain of salt.
What does through the night mean?
And through the night, what does through the night mean? From a textbook point of view, through the night means from 12 midnight to 5 in the morning, which really doesn't cut it with most of us.
That's not enough.
No, we really want them
I need a 7 till 7.
Yeah. And when you put it like that, you realise that 7 to 7 is very unrealistic for a newborn baby. They have to grow, they have to feed. They're going to feed every couple of hours.
That tiny little tummy can't carry that much milk. Yeah.
They don't know it's nighttime.
No. You might be blessed and have one that maybe gives you 3 or 4 hours overnight. And, we suggest that if you're getting that longer stretch during the day, you could spend a little bit of time first thing in the morning feeding by the window, get a little bit of UV light into those little eyes, which will help to set the circadian rhythm in your baby's brain. But generally speaking, by 6 weeks of age, if you're getting a longer period of sleep, it's usually at night by that stage.
Yeah. And often the first part of the night, isn't it?
Yes. Yeah. So go to bed early.
Yeah.
It can be so tempting though.
Yeah, I know.
Sabotage yourself because it's the only time you get.
Yeah. And you think, I just want a little bit of me time. But don't turn on Netflix because
those rolling episodes.
Do you really want to watch this next episode? Crying is definitely in those early days. We generally suggest that you think about your newborn baby. And if you're really struggling with, what they're trying to tell you, think about, are they hungry? When did they last feed? If it's more than 2 hours since they last fed, give it a go. If you're breastfeeding, your babies are going to feed quite frequently. Their tummies are only the size of their clenched fists. Breast milk is very quickly digested. So as they get bigger, they can take on more and then you'll get longer stretches. Formula-fed babies do tend to feel, fuller for longer. So and often people think, I'm just going to give them a bottle of formula at night. That doesn't always work. But, if it works for you, that's great. The most important thing is that your baby gets fed and gains weight and is happy. So just don't put too much pressure on yourself if the breastfeeding is really difficult. So we've worked out whether they're hungry or not. Are they tired? Now, a newborn baby is really only going to be awake for about an hour. And in that time, you're going to feed, which might take you 40 minutes. You're going to change a nappy, maybe twice. So that's another...
Beginning and end of feed.
Beginning and end of feed. If you get an eruption in the middle of the feed, don't worry about it. Just do it at the end. And the chances are they're going to fall asleep while you're feeding them, either on the breast or on the bottom. And in those early days, that doesn't really matter. After as you're coming up to that 12-week mark, we do suggest you think about the length of the breastfeed. When the pauses become longer than the actual period of sucking, chances are you're being used as a dummy, and that would be a good time to ease your baby off and maybe try and settle them in the cot so that we, help our little ones to co-regulate, which is, the precursor to being able to regulate yourself, which is definitely a learned skill, takes time, but babies who, get a little bit of help with that early on and can actually settle themselves do tend to sleep better overnight because they can transition from one sleep cycle to the next. But I'm not going to delve into that today.
No, we've done
I'm
sleep.
going to leave that to somebody else.
Leave it to
we've
someone
talked
else.
about sleep.
Yeah.
So crying as communication, that newborn cry can be really, really intense. But it's intense for a reason, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It's absolutely, there's no ignoring it. And that's the whole idea of that cry, is that it gets you out of your seat and like, whoa, what's going on here? Because we are the only mammal that doesn't literally get up and walk. We are totally reliant on mum and dad or grandma or anybody, like a significant other, because as we know, there's no such thing as just a baby. There's always a baby and somebody else. So it's supposed to make you feel not slightly panicked, but
into action.
It triggers something in you, doesn't it?
Yeah, it definitely triggers something in you. And sometimes it triggers a lot more. Sometimes that triggering system is, more intense in some people than others. Other people can listen to the cry and just ignore it. Not ignore it, but just manage it. And for other people, or for usually mums, it is really, what's the word?
It's like heartbreaking for them.
It is heartbreaking.
Yeah.
And, for whatever reason, and there are often other underlying reasons why that crying really triggers something in you. So I guess this would be a good opportunity to say that if at 3 months you're still feeling quite panicked by that crying, it would probably be worth seeking some professional help. Postnatal depression is very common, and by 3 months of age, you really should be enjoying your baby. You should be feeling like hopefully you are feeling like you're getting the hang of it and you're enjoying it. And if you're not, you're certainly not the minority. Please seek professional help. Either talk to your child health nurse or see your GP. But you're not supposed to do this on your own. We're not really supposed to parent on our own. We definitely need a village.
Yeah. So in terms of crying, Angela,
Yeah.
is there different cries that parents should look for?
Yeah. I mean, there's that high-pitched get me out of here cry, which you just couldn't possibly ignore. And I was actually looking at a book that my mother gave me, and there'll be people out there listening and or grandmothers out there who perhaps used Dr. Spock.
Gosh.
Which was actually, I think, written in 1929, but definitely used in the 50s and 60s. So I took the opportunity to have a look at the episode on crying, which hasn't really changed except for the language. We talked about hypertonic babies, irritable babies. But hunger, tiredness, and that's probably that tired cry. It's a bit grisly. It takes a little while to get your head around that tired cry. So often we mistake it for being a little bit bored. So we jiggle them up and down a little bit and we delay putting them down, and then that just
Overtired.
We then end up with an overtired baby, and then it's quite difficult to put them down. The other thing that little babies do is that they actually turn away from us when they've had enough. And that is a very subtle sign that unless you're looking for it, you probably miss it. And that's babies really saying to us, hey, this has been great fun, but I've just had enough here. So respect that moment rather than thinking, oh, they're getting bored. That's your cue that they're ready to go to bed. And if the timing's right, it can be really quite straightforward. But if it's not, if you delay it, it can be very difficult.
And the crying can get quite intense if they're really overtired.
Yeah.
And that makes it really confusing because you're kind of in the situation where you're like, I have no clue what's happening here.
Yeah. Just getting back to Dr. Spock, the other thing you said to check was, which made me laugh because, of course, we don't have this issue anymore, was just make sure if it's excessive crying that you haven't stuck the nappy pin in them.
Oh, we're lucky we don't have that anymore.
We don't have nappy pins anymore. So
even in cloth nappies, that's all different contractions.
Stretchy number. So I did think times have changed. The concept of crying is still there. If you're still having a baby, if your baby is still crying a lot, I guess we should also just mention that if you've got a baby that normally doesn't cry and does start to cry a lot, you do have to think about things like, are they well? So just look at them. Do they look like they normally look? Have they got sparkly eyes? Have they got good skin turgor? Are they just as enthusiastic to feed? Are you getting lots of wet nappies? And if you think, well, actually they're not feeding quite so well, how many wet nappies have I got? Ideally, we don't want to see the colour of the urine. So if you've got baby doing lots of wheeze and you can't see it, you can't smell it, you know that they're well hydrated. So that's usually not the issue. But don't ignore the baby that cries, that doesn't normally cry.
That change in presentation, perhaps.
Just think about, are they hot? Are they brewing something?
And that's when we say to parents, you are the expert in your baby, and if you think something is wrong, then always seek
Absolutely.
help.
And even if you were to ring the Ngala parenting line, and we would say to you, present to either your GP or
urgent care
or urgent care. Mother's gut feeling is, that's a serious indicator to present.
Yes.
And, it's well known that if you present to a casualty or accident and emergency saying, the baby's just not right, my gut feeling that makes people really think.
Yep.
Because you are the expert when it comes to you.
Particularly in those early days, they'll act quick.
Yeah, absolutely.
Times of the day, some times of the day can be more intense for crying than others.
Yeah, generally evenings.
Cactus hour.
Yeah, the witching hour, whether it's preparing one for the inevitable homework that comes when our children get older, I'm not really sure, but the witching hour is definitely
It's more than an hour too. So, yeah that's rude.
Start sort of mid-late afternoon and go for a period.
And it might be, especially if you're breastfeeding, maybe the quality of your milk's not as great as it is certainly overnight. If you're not eating, if you're busy, you usually don't prioritise your own food intake. You might snack. So, it is a gentle reminder to make sure that you do eat well, because the quality of your milk needs to be as good in the morning as it is, or as good in the evening as it is at night or in the evening. And maybe it's also the fact that we've got a bit of a cumulative tiredness. We've been handled a lot, especially if you've had visitors. We're generally just a bit irritable by it.
Overwhelmed.
Yeah, it's all a bit much.
The world is big when you're that little.
So you might have a baby that, is not quite ready for a nap, but just needs some quiet time. Even a little walk in the pram might be helpful, even if they don't sleep, just quietens them down.
Change in scenery can really help.
Good for everybody.
Yeah.
Good for everyone's mental health. Mum, dad, whoever's responsible for that crying baby.
In the past, people have talked about things like colic.
Yes.
And now often on the parenting line, we might have parents that bring up purple crying.
Yes, which might be the modern word for colic. So purple crying is actually an acronym. So it stands for, if you've got a pen there, P stands for the peak of crying. It's unexpected. It resists soothing. Your baby will have a pain-like face without having any, obvious reason for that. It's long-lasting, and it's usually in the evening, so that witching hour. It's definitely a recognised, collection of symptoms. Is that the right word? And it is documented. If you look at the Perth Children's Hospital website, it's there. It is also associated with, excessive crying is very stressful for parents. So it is also associated with shaken baby syndrome. So I guess it would be a good time to say that if you do have a baby that is crying excessively and you are at your wit's end and you just think, especially if you're on your own, what am I just can't handle this anymore, just put your baby in that cot and walk outside and take a few big, deep breaths. Okay, it's distressing to hear a crying baby, but if that allows you to sort of gather your thoughts, ring somebody and say, hey, I just need a bit of support. But it's so easy to shake a baby. And that crying it can be really, really difficult. So there is no, in fact, we should encourage people to reach out and ask for help, because it's tough. Yeah. It's really, really tough.
And those days can be very long.
They can be very long, especially if, you're, a FIFO mum or a parent whose other half is doing a shift worker. The
solo
parenting. Absolutely, it can be really, really tough.
It feels really lonely too. Yeah. It feels like you're the only one going through it.
Yeah. And while I suggest that you step outside, because it's always good for everybody's soul to be in nature, it's also really good for babies. So if you do have a crying baby, stepping outside, stand under a tree, light through leaves, it's mesmerising. And so that is actually a really nice way of calming a baby down. You can always park the pram under it if the weather's permitting.
Yeah.
And that probably brings us into a nice next little talking point about settling and soothing and what we can do in those hard times.
Yeah. So obviously in those very early days, most babies don't really like to be put down, which a lot of parents find really difficult. They expect to be able to put their baby down and for them to sleep and look like something out of a baby magazine. But they have been, in utero, in a nice closed environment, in warm, watery.
Never felt hunger.
Never
felt cold.
Never felt hunger. Felt like they're being hugged the whole time. So it's not surprising that they want to be held a lot.
You can't spoil your baby, I think.
No, absolutely not.
And you can't make a bad habit.
No.
A bad in inverted commas.
No.
Yeah,
and if this is
habit.
and if this is your first baby, just enjoy it, indulge yourself, because when the second one comes along, you really do have to put them down because you haven't got
haven't got 4 arms.
Those toddlers,
No, you've got demands being made on you. So, just do whatever it takes to have a baby that settles. Marvel in how clever you've been to produce this little person who is just so enamored with you they don't want to be put down. They will eventually want to be put down. I guess maybe we should touch on swaddling. So midwives in hospital are very good at swaddling babies, and I can say that because I used to do it as well. We do it really, really tightly.
With lots of practice.
And to replicate that feeling of being in utero. But as babies develop, they unfurl and they want to find their hands. So while the first few weeks, it's absolutely okay to swaddle your baby, and quite handy if you're trying to navigate the breastfeeding thing and those positioning
Keeps
and
the
arms keep
in.
getting in the way, and swaddling it can be very helpful. But there does come a point where you need to ditch that swaddling. Because they will be looking for their hands. They get really frustrated, and that's just another thing that adds to their grumpiness. And also once you've got rid of that swaddling, you need to get it out of the bassinet and out of the cot, because it becomes a bit of a SIDS. Well, it is a SIDS hazard because you've got a loose bit of clothing, loose bit of fabric in the cot.
Somewhat.
So swaddling can be very helpful in those early days. Being held. There's lots of pouches on the market, slings that make it just a little bit easier for you to actually make a cup of tea or make yourself a sandwich while still holding a baby. If you do get to put them down, that's a bit of a bonus. And there are all sorts of I don't want to call them aids, but cots and pillows and cots that rock and all sorts of things. But generally speaking, you should be able to put your baby down. Nice, firm mattress, unencumbered. I mean, in places like Sweden, you come home with a cardboard box, so they don't actually need very much. If you have got a baby that's very unsettled, or just you're thinking, okay, well, how am I going to manage this? That all babies seem to like being rocked and jigged around a little bit. Just if you've just fed them, just go gently. You just don't want to wear it. But generally speaking, just do it gently. Most babies need to be held upright to be burped, but you don't need to thump their back. You just need to sort of very gently hold them. If they've taken in a bit of air, they can give you a burp. That usually makes babies feel a bit better. So that might be another reason they're crying. They've got a little bit of wind.
And some babies are burpers and some are farters.
Yeah. Well, if it goes
it's
beyond,
upper or lower digestion,
Yeah, so if you've got a really healthy milk supply, you might find that it's worth, you've got a baby that might be gulping a little bit of air. So if they are really windy, nappy-free time can be good. Kicking, bicycle with their little legs when you're doing a nappy change. Bit of gentle massage in a clockwise direction can be handy if they are really windy. And if all else fails, but they like a bath, a nice deep warm bath can be really...
That's what they say, isn't it? Put babies and toddlers in water when they're upset.
Well, I have seen a very newborn baby, we put him in a bath when I was a student midwife, and this baby just farted around the bath. No, so it can be really useful, and it's a lovely thing to do. It's really nice for
I've got a beautiful photo of my son sleeping in the bath and my husband bathing him, and he was probably only a few days old, And I remember taking those photos and then being like, I'm going to moonwalk out of this room because I don't want to be here when you
gone,
take that baby out of the bus.
Yeah. They don't like getting in and they don't like getting out. But once they're in, and that was when I was working as a midwife, one of my favourite things to do was to teach parents how to do the bathing.
Yeah.
Because it does sometimes instantly soothe those babies. They'll go in screaming because you've taken all their clothes off. But once they're in that water,
it's beautiful.
they love it. Yeah.
It must feel familiar.
Yeah.
Exactly. Like they've been bathing in amniotic fluid for 9 months. So a warm bath, probably a little bit warmer than you think, is actually really soothing.
You don't want it to be tepid or cold.
No,
anyway.
no.
Elbow in, feeling that warmth.
Yeah, absolutely. So we can rock, we can pat, we can give them a bath, we can put them in the pram and go for a walk. Some babies love the pram, others absolutely hate it. A bit like those that like the car seat, others don't. I don't think people really put babies in car seats to get them to sleep anymore, not the way we used to. Petrol's too expensive.
I do find that on the parenting line, a lot of the questions that we get asked about is babies crying in cars and how to help that.
Yeah, and that can be really distressing, especially if you're on your own. I do actually think, having been speaking as a grandmother, that a mirror is pretty handy.
Yep.
Because especially from about 4 months of age, babies are intrigued by faces. So
Even their own.
Yeah, even their own. Well, yeah.
They love themselves the most.
Yeah, yeah. So a mirror might just, buy you an extra few kilometres. It's
one of those things that's really hard to speak to parents about, because when you're in the car and you're on the freeway and your baby's screaming, there's not a lot you can do.
You can't get off.
Yeah, about safety.
Yeah, you can't get off. And it's also about how that crying makes you feel. So when you can't do anything about it, i.e. you're on the freeway in a car with a car seat, or you're perhaps at a venue, or just in circumstances where it's going to take you a little while to extricate yourself, it becomes really distressing for you. And if you're holding your baby picks up on that stress. So it sort of becomes a bit of a vicious cycle. So removing both of you from that situation and allowing yourself to calm down, sit under that tree with the lovely light coming through it, and makes everybody calm and relaxed.
Yeah. I think we spoke about in an earlier episode about the baby picking up on the parent's stress and how someone can swoop in and take over, and how that's really normal for them to respond to someone else and not to maybe the mother or the father who's been working really hard to settle this baby. Yeah. And that's nothing to do with your capacity to be good at that. It's just that you've been doing it for so long.
And it can absolutely shatter your confidence, especially if you've had a really rough day at home and Dad walks in and picks that baby up and he's, quiet.
Straight away,
oh, my God, that is just so not fair.
And then you think, I've done something. It must be me. They don't like me. But it's nothing.
No, it's that stress level and a different set of arms to cuddle them. So right. Stress is contagious. Yeah. Very contagious.
And babies are very good at picking up on it.
They are.
And a technique that I've often mentioned on the parenting line, if the person calling is fortunate enough to be co-parenting with someone, that tagging in and out. So if you're in that period where it's that really hard time of the day, baby's really, really overwhelmed, it's been a big day, even if they've had great naps, the world is really big for that little baby. Yeah. So then you kind of go, okay, I'm going to do an hour, and then we're going to tag out, and you're going to do, and just to give every parent the knowledge that they have someone else that's going to be tapping in, tapping out, and you might not settle that baby still, but you know that your shift kind of is going to come to an end, and sometimes just the knowledge that you're going to have a break at some point can be enough to help you get through that really hard time.
Yeah. And Hannah, the other thing about it is that, especially if this is happening at night, is that there's no point in both of you being absolutely exhausted. So while you might, as new parents think, I should do the right thing and, support one another, you have to be realistic about it. There's no point in both of you being tired and grumpy. Take it in turns.
Yes.
And baby's temperament and personality also play a part in this. So if you
And mums.
and
and
mums
dads.
and dads, and
Yeah.
if you have a baby that's sort of wired or doesn't need as much sleep as the next person, and you are, somebody who's always slept in and
Need 11 hours.
Yeah, exactly. You're going to find this baby really difficult. And vice versa. If you're a really go-get-it kind of person and you've got a baby that sleeps most of the day and you're like, I can't get out to do anything, that's also frustrating. You need to find that happy medium of, maybe your baby gets to sleep in its cot and bassinet for a few naps of the day, but one of those naps
Out
and a
and
nap
about.
in the afternoon might need to be on the go in the pram so you get your
That's
jobs
okay.
done.
I think going back to what you were saying as well before about crying and taking it in turns so we can lower those stress levels. One of the things I find really helpful with parents is if you're having that break, being able to not hear the baby crying, even if you're in another room. And so earplugs or those loop earplugs where you can't hear, because if you're in another room and you can still hear that baby crying, you're not getting that break from that kind of cortisol.
Going to have a shower, I think.
Yeah.
I mean, depending on the time of the day, but going to have a shower so that parent that's not on their shift of dealing with the crying in that moment or is actually able to tune out from it.
Just go for a walk.
Even a walk around the block.
That's right.
Or go and do, go and swim some laps or do a yoga class. Or,
you know your baby's safe with another caregiver. You literally have to not be able to hear. So you can have that kind of break from those hormones, those stress hormones.
And, some mothers usually are much more in need of time out themselves. And you almost feel guilty that you really need to have that time out. But if that makes you a calmer, more relaxed, I guess more engaged mother, then it's not selfish. It's absolutely necessary. You really need to look after you. You're the most important person in your baby's life, so you owe it to your baby to look after yourself. So it's not being selfish. It's making your well-being a priority. Because I think if you told most mothers that the highlight of their week might be going grocery shopping unencumbered before they had a baby, they'd be horrified.
Or having a shower. That's
but
self-care.
It's the truth. But no, I guess now it's not such a big thing because you can shop online and have it delivered.
But sometimes you need to get out.
Exactly.
So you're like, take the baby, I'm going shopping.
Yeah, it's a good excuse to get out there and just take a moment for yourself.
Yeah. I feel as a mother of 2 young children, driving without children in the car feels like such a luxury to me.
You can have whatever you want on the radio.
There's no wiggles.
Yeah, exactly. Or, I do remember flying home. My family's in Queensland and flying back, having gone by myself and getting off a plane with a handbag, thinking, I'm missing something. I haven't got a baby or a nappy bag or anything like that.
Yeah.
The logistics of getting out of the house are a challenge.
Yeah. Being kind to yourself.
Yep. When it comes to crying and managing crying, things come in and out of vogue. And we've had a lot of calls recently on the parenting line about people say, I've been doing the Ferber controlled crying method. When a lot of people think that's what we do at Ngala, which we don't. So for those of you who are listening who don't know what controlled crying is or what the connotations that went with controlled crying, it was actually putting your baby down and waiting, a minute and then going in and going, you're okay. And it wasn't
timed intervals.
At timed intervals, increasing the increments of the time that you left them. But it's not what we would call responsive settling. So you weren't actually listening to the cry and what the cry was trying to sort of tell you. You just went in from a timing point of view, which was challenging. And
confusing for the baby.
Yeah, very confusing for the baby because they don't know, whether you're coming or going.
And also very, very hard for parents.
It's very difficult for parents. And I can say that from a personal point of view before I was a child health nurse with my first baby.
When I had my first son, controlled crying was what
in
they
it.
did.
Absolutely.
Yep. He's 19 now, so yeah.
Yeah, well, mine's 34. So it was really difficult to do. And I
remember going and standing out on the end of my driveway while I waited 2 minutes before I went back in, and then I'd go out and it would be 4 minutes, and then that you'd go back in, and it never worked.
No, it doesn't work. So if you are struggling with this, responsive settling is that's why it's so important to get your head around what that cry is trying to tell you, whether they're tired, hungry, just cranky, as in maybe in pain or discomfort. Or, sometimes there's that I just want to be loved cry. Like, I'm not really sure what's happening here, but I just need a cuddle.
I need you.
Yeah, I need you. And you're not going to spoil your baby. There's absolutely no way that...
the responsiveness is important.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And when you are cuddling your baby, this is probably a good opportunity to be engaged with your baby. So whether it's, whether you're feeding or changing a nappy, but take that opportunity to actually talk to your baby, and because not only do they communicate by crying, they also look at you, and they're watching the expressions of your face. So if you have had your earphones in, take them out. Listen to your baby. Put that phone away. Engage with them. Right from the start, that communication is they are programmed to communicate with us. So they're listening to those words, even though they don't really understand them in those early days. They can tell by the tone of your voice and the inflection and the smiles on your face that you are trying to talk to them. So, this is the start of learning language and learning
and
how
being
to
a social
communicate.
being.
Absolutely. They smile at 6 weeks just when it's all getting really hard and we're peaking at the crying
Science is amazing.
But you get that smile.
And you get a smile and you're like, oh, okay, maybe this isn't, I'm doing, this is all right.
Yeah.
So,
I think that's really, going back to that's really important, that when your baby is really unsettled, sometimes just speaking to them, it's okay.
Yeah.
Even if you don't feel that in your soul, you can fake it till you make it a little bit and just say, I'm here, in that nice, calm voice, because they do know your voice.
Absolutely. And if you listen to people talking to babies, even strangers, and men as well, they automatically talk in what we call babyese. So they go up a notch. Oh, you're gorgeous. And that's because babies are programmed to hear at that slightly higher pitch. So nature is wonderful. We are, we're all programmed to communicate with babies.
Connect.
Yeah, and connect. They're desperate to connect. They reach out and they kind of babble and blow bubbles.
Cry.
And cry, and cry. And it all happens so quickly. I mean, it is a bit of a blur when you're the new parent.
And it's a lot of trial and error.
Oh, yeah.
It takes so long to figure out those different cries and to be able to go, I know my baby's hungry, or I know my baby. So having a bit of a rhythm can sometimes be helpful, because then you can problem solve around, what's my baby actually trying to tell me right now? Okay, so we've done that. All right, maybe I'm going to try a feed, or I'm going to try a sleep. And you never know if it's going to work or not, but you can give it a go.
Yeah.
I often think about as well with those rhythms that every day, we do have a general rhythm as people. We eat 3 times a day. We might have a snack. We, have those natural routines and rhythms of our day, but there's variation in there as well. Sometimes we go to bed later, sometimes we go to bed earlier. And again, so with those routines and rhythms, to have some variation in there and to give yourself and your baby permission to be a little different every day, because they're a unique individual little human being with developing their own sense of the world and their own sense of self. And that's not prescriptive. We're not the same people in this room. I think I've said in another episode, so we can't expect all of our babies to be exactly the same and follow the exact same schedules. And I know that's not always the easiest thing to hear, because it means we have to problem solve a little bit more. I mean, and when we're tired, that is really hard. But at the same time, that's why we at Ngala bang on about responsiveness, because responsiveness allows us to have space to problem solve and to go, okay, where are we at today? Okay, what could I do? Is that going to work? Oh, that didn't work. Or maybe this, I'll try this. And so it's constantly a bit of a toing and froing, as opposed to trying to get our baby to fit into a schedule that maybe we found somewhere.
Yeah, and a lot of people say, this baby's not going to change our life. It'll just have to slot in.
I know.
It really doesn't work like that. And the other thing that we get a lot of on the parenting line is people who are having subsequent babies, and they go, I don't know what I'm doing wrong. This worked for the first baby. Well, there's a lot of research on, birth order that says, the first baby can do what they like because you love them unconditionally and you don't know any better. But the second baby comes along and very quickly works out that there's no point being quiet because they will get no attention. So they're always going to be different. But the other thing to remember is that you are a different person and the world is a different place to, 18 months ago, perhaps when you had your first baby. And you don't have the time or the schedule that you had when you only had one baby. So it's only natural that the second child is going to be different and you need to respond differently.
Yeah.
And what works 1 week might not work 3 weeks later because as babies grow, we need to sort of keep moving the goalposts.
Yeah, they change so quickly.
Yeah.
So thank you so much, Angela, for joining us today.
It's been my pleasure. And I guess to all those new parents out there who hopefully are managing the crying and the communication, if you are finding it a little bit difficult, please don't hesitate to ring us on the parenting.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
Lovely chatting with you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to Parenting with Ngala. The topics covered in our podcast are general in nature and the information might not suit everyone. If you're in Western Australia and would like to chat about a specific challenge, you can talk directly to the Ngala parenting line by calling 9368 9368. For all other links and resources, check out the Ngala website and the show notes below. Thank you again and see you next time.